What sort of things?
Welcome to Beyond Fringe, an organic podcast discussing the topics beyond the fringe of this or any other reality. On this podcast, we explore cryptids, paranormal activity, lost legends, aliens, government conspiracies, historic mysteries, lost treasures, and forbidden archaeology. I'm the Cryptid Guy, and with me as always is my co-host, Daniel Hurst, aka Tiny. Together, we explore the world beyond fringe. How we doing tonight, Tiny?
We're doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. First thing I want to say is thank you for the people that's listening to us.
I'm blown away. I am so grateful. I feel the same way you do. In our old podcast, I can't remember what it's called now.
Fringe.
Yeah, beyond our old podcast, Fringe Investigations. It took us a couple of weeks to get the numbers we're getting now, and I'm just blown away, and I'm so grateful. So thank you to everyone. And that reminds me, if anyone wants to get in touch with us, it's pretty easy to do, and we're going to give our phone number and our email address out a few times during the podcast. So if you want to email us, you can get us at beyondfringe at beyondfringe001, at gmail.com. And if you want to call us, you can get us at 828-407-0046. My friends, tonight's going to be a great show simply because we are going to be picking the paranormal brain and accoutrements of our buddy Tiny. As you know, Tiny's been doing paranormal investigations for his whole life pretty much, and he's got a lot of great stories. And since we had our first 3 episodes are pretty much about, cryptids and the Dogman, things like that, we decided we want to delve into the paranormal headlong. Tiny, the mic is yours.
Well, for the people that's listening that may have heard me on Fringe or, some other places, I've said this before, and my first paranormal experience that I remember happened at age 5.
That's awful young.
And well, what's even crazier is I remember it.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, well, I seem to be losing that as I get older. But I think that's a side effect. But it began age 5, and it's continued ever since. And I've had an interest ever since that happened. Of course, then I really didn't know what was happening. I just knew something odd was happening. And again, that was in that, what I call a power place that I grew up in. And, that place, it's part of who I am. Just like, the country's in me.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm not in the country is in me, right?
Definitely.
And that's kind of how the paranormal's been for me. And it's been, for me, it's been positive. Because it's made me curious, it's made me want to investigate. I've learned a lot. I've met great people, and had great experiences because of it.
It is funny the people you run into, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is, man. There's some wild people, and then there's some people that you just listen to and look at, and all you can do is give them this blank stare because they're blowing your freaking mind. It's like, oh my God, I never thought of that.
Sometimes you just got to walk away and think.
Yeah.
Should I be doing that?
Yeah. So, well, let me ask you a question since we're going that far back.
Yes.
And I'm going, the name of the podcast is Beyond Fringe. So let's step out a little ways. And I know me and you, we have a little bit differing ways on how we deal with the paranormal. We have little different views.
Yes, I run from it and it runs from you.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. And I'll explain part of why I think that is too, since you mention it so often.
It's because I've seen it.
It makes it difficult to do an investigation when things...
It does, because when things are running from you, it's hard to study them.
Yeah. So, what do you think about somebody who can project their astral being, actually stepping back in time?
I think that'd be awesome if it was possible.
Well, let me tell you a story. So, as married people do, my parents got in a fuss one night, and my mom said, "You know what? I'm sleeping on the couch." So she went and slept on the couch. My dad was in bed, and we lived in a mobile home, and my room was between where the couch was and the bedroom, and I got up and I went to the bathroom, which again was in between, and directly my mom asked me. She said, "Daniel?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Where you at?" I had to look around, make sure I was still where I thought it was. So, you never know. I said, "Well, I'm in the bathroom." She said, "You didn't just go into your bedroom?" I said, "No." She said, "Are you sure?" I looked around. I'm still sitting on the toilet. So I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." She said, "Okay." So the next day she told me why she asked that. And what had happened is she looked up down the hallway and she saw a figure walk out of the bathroom toward my bedroom. And mobile homes, they have a light pretty much dead center of the hallway, right? Well, she said this figure was tall enough to where it blocked the light. Like the head blocked the light, but she could still see through it. So obviously it's a shadow figure is what we're talking about. And she said that it stopped and it looked at her, bowed its head, shook its head, walked into my bedroom. And I've often thought about that. And as a young man dealing with sleep paralysis like I did, it was a nightly occurrence for me. That's a whole nother topic. Part of my belief is part of sleep paralysis is the person that's dealing with the sleep paralysis is actually traveling astrally. And I learned how to do that at will as a young man.
That's pretty cool.
It was interesting.
Did you zone out and go somewhere else?
It always happened when I was sleeping. You ever have that feeling? And my belief is we all do it. We just don't remember we do it. We're all capable of it. But as humans, we're much, much more powerful than we allow ourselves to be. And for the religious people that listen to us, God said He made us in His image, right?
He did.
All right. Well, you're talking about an awful powerful being.
Yes, complete, total.
Yeah.
The whole package deal.
So if we're made in His image, then I'm sure He gave us a few talents.
You know what, Tiny? That makes a lot of sense. And it would make even more sense that like the powers that be wouldn't want regular people in society knowing what they're capable of.
Exactly.
And that could be a whole another reason why things have always been dampered down and say, oh no, that's crazy when you say you can do something or when you be able to do something or ostracized or
exactly.
You don't conform with society.
Exactly.
Because you can't be controlled. If you have an ability to do something like that, who can control you? Nobody.
Exactly.
And if you can do, let's just say, take it a step further. Let's just say you're capable of going backwards in time in your dreams and affecting the outcome of the future. That's the most powerful weapon you could ever. Don't worry about nuclear bombs. Don't worry about laser beams. Don't worry about stuff coming from the sky. If you can go to bed, go back 100 years and change someone's ancestry so they never meet.
Yeah.
Then it's untraceable.
Yeah.
That's probably the most powerful weapon you could ever have.
Well, have you ever been laying in bed and you hit that zone in sleep where you're kind of awake, kind of asleep,
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then you feel like you're falling, and you do that jerk, you know, like you're falling.
Yeah,
out of bed.
that quick stop thing.
You know what that is?
No.
That's your astral self coming back,
Oh.
and that hit, that fear that it causes when you're falling, and when you come back in, you jerk, it kills the memory. You don't remember it. It's like being jolted awake from a dream, and you know that dream goes away.
I wonder if that's like the body's way, because you know there's like 12 volts running through your human body. I wonder if that has something to do with it, because it does. It feels like you're being shocked a little. You never know. I mean, that's possible. We can't even understand anything pretty much about the paranormal world.
And
so,
the thing
is,
is,
why wouldn't that be something that we would be in that list of something we wouldn't understand?
and the thing is, we're a spiritual being. You know,
I agree.
we're not our bodies. We're not our physical.
No, I agree.
So,
I mean, for the record, you know, we're both. I'd say I don't know. I don't like saying spiritual. I'm religious and spiritual, but I keep it to you know. I believe in the grand architect of the universe. I believe in all and you know. I keep it to, I'm low key about it, and I know you are too, but we all have our different beliefs, and I think that just kind of is part of being human.
Yeah.
You have that belief in the spiritual afterlife.
So, anyway, that was a long roundabout, but that shadow figure, I've often wondered if that wasn't me going back to a memory.
And then and then
Yeah.
the head nod would be kind of like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, because she said that she had a very distinct feeling of sadness from this shadow.
Disappointment, maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's, you know what, Tiny, that's a great point. You never know. I remember there was an old movie from the 80s, an old sci-fi movie, and I can't remember. I know we're going to figure this out when we have lunch later, but they were talking about the only way to do time travel was to go back and reach someone in their dream state, like through alpha waves.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that actually has something to do with it.
It's entirely possible.
I mean, I think it is. I mean, again, this is beyond fringe. Anything's possible because we're honest. We don't pretend to know everything.
Exactly.
That's the difference between us and other podcasts.
We talk about our opinions, we talk about our thoughts and our experiences. That's all.
It is. And remember, my friends, and I think Tiny will back me on this. Anyone to tell you they're an expert in the paranormal, the cryptid world, just smile, nod your head, and walk away.
Yeah.
Because there's no experts in this game.
Well, you know, I'm 40 years old now, and I've had these experiences, like I said, since I was 5 years old. I'm no expert. I've had a lot of experiences, but I'm no expert because I'm doing what everybody else is doing and studying it and trying to figure
Well, you actively go out and research this material. I mean, there's a difference. I mean, we go to places where people, are scared. I hate saying this because I don't want to make us sound like we're more than we're not. But I mean, there's places you and I have walked into where most people with common sense would not.
Well, and the thing is, when you talk about that and people's fear of the paranormal, it's a misunderstanding. It's, we've been programmed since we're little to be afraid of that stuff. And where, yes, there is bad stuff out there. There is negative stuff out there. There are, I believe, again, y'all, this is my opinion. I believe there are demons, but the word is definitely overused. I don't think there's near the amount of demon activity as people believe. I think that's a product of fear.
Well, you know what I think that stems from too? Because I agree with you. Because I think when you start dealing in that realm, that's a whole different ballgame. You know my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
You start running in that realm, you just go to the Catholic church down the street, you knock on the door and say, "Here, you guys need to fix this."
Well,
right? That's my opinion, and that's just a Cryptid Guy's opinion. But
I was going to make a statement there, but I'm more afraid of the Vatican than I am the Men in Black, so I'm going to keep that comment to myself.
I want them both happy with me.
Yeah.
So whatever that takes, I'm down. But if you think about it, though, it makes total sense. I've never been scared of the dark. That's never been a fear of mine.
Yeah.
I hate snakes, and I'm scared of my mom. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of fear. I'm not that bright. So being in the dark doesn't really scare me. But there are things that are in the dark that can scare you and do scare me. I'll be honest about that. And it's funny because when, just take hypothetically, okay, one of your research investigations, and again, we don't give names, we don't give addresses, we don't tell people where it is. It's just not.
And there's a lot of things
And,
that I've done that I'm not at liberty to talk about.
Exactly, because when Tiny does an investigation, paranormal investigation, and they bring him in for help, let me tell you something. That is completely, that is like the highest classified information. Tiny gives his word, and that's good enough for me. He's not going to say anything. That's another reason why we always give things code names. Because we're not going to give, we have maps and things like that, but the truth of the matter is they're not online. They're on a computer. They're on a hard copy, piece of paper somewhere.
Yeah.
Truth is, I can't remember where they are half the time, but they're in a binder. Yeah, they're put up safekeeping. I hide them from myself, so I can't even find them. But we do that on purpose because we don't want to be an organization that goes around talking about other people's problems. And that's and speaking of that, that's probably why I got an email from a very, very nice person who lives in a very, very haunted house that's never been professionally investigated, and they want us to do it. And I think one of the reasons for that is simply because it's complete non-disclosure. We're not going to tell anyone anything.
Yeah.
We're going to present the evidence we find to them, and if they allow us to release some of that evidence, then we'll put that up on our website or we'll talk about it on our podcast. But we're never going to use names. We're never going to give a location. It's going to be an undisclosed location somewhere in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's how we do everything. Like even if you go back to the way we even post evidence on Instagram or on Facebook or on Twitter, it's an undisclosed location. And I think people appreciate that. And I know I would.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when they call someone like you in, they know they're going to get that kind of treatment and they know they can trust you. And I think that's the reason why we have so many delicate cases. That was my long way around the barn saying that that's how we get delicate cases.
Yeah. Well, and you have to, excuse me, you have to build a trust.
Exactly.
And because you're already dealing with a delicate matter. People that have experiences, they're already in that
they're
mindset
fragile.
Of, am I crazy?
Yeah, they're fragile. They're mentally fragile. I think that's the best way to state it. They're mentally fragile at that point.
And in experiences, whether it's cryptid experiences or spiritual experiences, things like that, it can almost cause a PTSD type response.
I agree. And we talked about that a little bit on the last podcast when people who were seeing Dogman, they couldn't believe what they were seeing, and all they can think of is werewolf. My God, it's a real werewolf.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause mental... If you're a scientifically based person and you just believe in black and white, there's no gray in the middle, it's either this, that, or nothing.
Yeah.
And you see something like that, your whole reality is now turned upside down.
Yeah.
And that's where we come in.
Because
we understand
work
that.
in the gray.
And yeah, because you know what? I'm telling you, my friends, and this is just our opinion, my opinion specifically, life isn't just black and white. I think there's more shades of gray that we're dealing in than any other color.
Yeah.
That spectrum, and simply because you can't know exactly what's going on all the time, and you can't have all the answers, and that's why things pop up. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're the cryptid and paranormal investigators, because we want the answers, and most of that all stems from us wanting to help people.
Yeah.
And don't ever. I know I've said this before, Tiny. I know you're probably going to hear it. I'm going to say it again, but we're not in this for the money.
Yeah.
There's
no money.
There's no money in it. So that's why when people, I laugh. You sent me a link the other day about a Bigfoot sighting somewhere close, and I'm not going to give names because it's just tacky. But when you post something like that and you're trying to be all secretive about it, and you don't want to give all the information or something like that, and the pictures don't look 100% right, don't post it. Yeah. Don't try to get your name out there unless you have the right evidence. That means I'm not trying to be mean or anything. That's just a little piece of advice, because.
Or at least do it the right way.
Exactly.
There's a right and a wrong way to do it. And you can't really, even if I had definitive proof of, Bigfoot or something like that, I don't think I would share it anyway. But
no, we both talked about that. We wouldn't.
If the paranormal evidence that I am able to share, I can put it out there and say, this is my opinion, but here it is for you to make your own decision. This is what I have. This is what I've done. This is what I used to capture this footage. It's up to you to make your decision. And I'm okay if you don't think it's paranormal, and I do. I'm okay if you think it's paranormal, and I don't.
We're just presenting the evidence. Everyone's got their own opinion. That's the difference between us and most people in this realm. All right? Everyone says, this is... When I see a link or a post, this is Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I see that. The first thing I'm looking at, I'm like, well, I've got 3 different things in my head right now,
Yeah.
thinking this is what it could be.
Yeah.
That's why we see possible evidence. And I think that's the difference. That's why, again, I think that goes back to our whole theory. There's no such thing as an expert in this field.
Yeah.
And I think we just keep proving ourselves time and time again with that because we act like there's no experts. Anything is possible.
People really want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, the sad thing is 99% of what you experience probably isn't paranormal. And I want to believe. I believe in I firmly believe in paranormal, obviously. But 99% of it isn't. And I would love for it to be.
I'll even go as far as saying 99.9. That, 0.01%, that little X-Files, that's where we live. That's where we work.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets real interesting. But the problem is you're not always going to find that. A lot of things. We're going to have a guest on one of our podcasts down the road. And I'm not going to mention his name right now because I don't have permission to. But he's a cool guy. He's just one of the coolest guys around.
He's a good investigator too.
He's a great investigator, and he's become a good friend. And his stuff, when he sent us the videos, or we got the videos, his first question wasn't, "Look at this." It's like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Is this paranormal?" He wasn't making any assumptions.
Yeah.
And you know what? I guarantee 99% of the people that would have had that information would have boom. Put it online, this is paranormal, boom.
Yeah.
And when you have someone like that, it's easy to work with. So my point to saying that is if there's paranormal activity, if you think there's paranormal activity out there, feel free to send it to us. Again, it's beyondfringe001@gmail.com. We're happy to look at anything, and we give you our honest opinion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
it's difficult sometimes.
It is difficult because you got people get excited about stuff.
Yeah.
Or we had that one lady that thought she had a Bigfoot picture, and I went to her, and it ended up being a stump.
Well, I had my heart broken.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay, even me. All right, even me that I forced myself to look with a skeptical eye. Okay. My group and I, we were doing a investigation, and it was reputedly haunted. Everybody said it was haunted. We seen evidence that was pretty impressive. We got some impressive evidence of our own. And this one piece. Dude, I thought we caught the Holy Grail. I thought we caught that full body apparition. I just knew there was a little girl standing there looking at me. I just knew it. I showed it to other group members. They were like, "Oh my God, oh my God." And one of our group members looked at it and debunked it. It broke my heart.
He was depressed for like 2 weeks after that, guys.
My soul still hurts, y'all.
He was upset.
But that's what you have to do. And the more eyes that are on it, the better.
That's why you never be afraid to have people look at your evidence. It's not evidence until it's been looked at, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I did this one investigation, and we had, when I say it was professional camera equipment, it was professional camera equipment. And I'm still waiting to hear back from one of the people that was on there. And I had my GoPro running. And I know I got stuff on my GoPro. So the stuff I got on my GoPro, I can only imagine what they got on their real stuff, or on the real cameras. I'm talking, these were $3,000-$4,000 pieces of equipment. They're incredible, right? But has yet to be looked at, so I don't know what's on it. Here's hoping.
Price of the equipment don't always make it better.
No, but it makes it pretty good.
It does.
Especially when we have the extra mics and all the other stuff, the infrared spectrum. So this is pretty cool. But there again, I don't know what I have until I've looked at both, because I know what I have on mine, but until I cross-reference it, I don't know if there's really anything there. Because I've got some pretty good stuff. But, again, from another angle, it could be completely debunked.
Exactly.
So you never know what you really have. That's why when I say we do our research, again, I was talking to this nice person about investigating their house and their property, and I said, I'm going to need your address and all that. And they're like, okay. And I said, we'll be in touch in probably maybe a month, month and a half, possibly 2 months. I'm like, why so long? I said, well, we have to do, before we step foot in your building, we have to do our research.
Yeah.
We have to know, we're going to go back to as far as we can to find out who owned it, what was there. Then we have to cross-reference that with crime reports. A lot of people don't think that's important, but you know what? You have a nasty entity there. There's a reason why it's there.
there's a good segue.
It always is.
We we got a little off track.
We did. We tend to do that.
We were talking about the demonic activity and the fear mongering of certain, we'll say, forces,
Personages,
yeah,
past and present.
So it's my belief that a person, when they pass and they stay here and start haunting, or however you want to say it, they retain that personality that they had in life. So if you have a bad person in life, you're going to have a bad spirit.
I agree.
And that because of the fear mongering that we've been taught, because of all those lessons that we've been taught from childhood, we're going to automatically jump to the conclusion that's a demon, when it's really just somebody that was just nasty in life.
Well, I remember, I had this talk a long time ago. If someone was a bad person in their life, they know it.
Yeah.
And then when they pass on and they have the option to go to the next realm where they know it's probably not going to be pleasant,
yeah,
they're going to stick around here. And why wouldn't you? I wouldn't, if you know you're going right down to the fiery pit, or you can hang out here and just cause more trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, to me that's logical, but that's just me.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to be real honest. And if I'm here and I haunt people, people are going to think I'm a poltergeist. Because I'm going to mess with people. I've got a list that I'm going to mess with.
I've seen this list, my friends. It's a couple of volumes. I'm in it twice. I don't even remember what I did. I had to scratch my name out when he wasn't looking. I don't blame you. I tell you what, I'd make a deal. If I come back, we're going to make some money. We got to take care of my family.
Yeah. But that's who I am. I'm going to mess with you. I'm sure the way that I would mess with certain people, they would know it's me.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll know it's you. If you go before me, I know it's you. If I go before you, you know it'll be me.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is not everything. Some things are negative. Some things are positive. Some things are just there. Some things are repetitive. There's different types of hauntings. Personally, I've had most of my life, I've had two very distinct entities that have followed me. They've been by my side the entire time. And I honestly couldn't tell you why. But one of them's been more positive.
You think they're attached to you?
Well, they're definitely attached. I just don't know why. I have a feeling that my family history is probably sorted.
Well, I mean, again, I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I still think somewhere down the line you've either got some kind of shaman blood or some kind of spiritual. I firmly believe it because I have seen what you just walk. I've seen what your presence does to what we would call evil spirits. And I say that with all confidence that these were evil spirits. They were up to no good. They were doing things that were pretty nasty. And the second Tiny walks in the room, we were in a dark room. There's no shadows, nothing. We're in a dark room, semi-dark. I mean, it was pretty poorly lit, but there was not enough light for the shadows we were seeing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, then all of a sudden, this one big shadow breaks into four shadows, basically goes to the four corners of the earth there, and disappears all at the same time, just when Tiny's walking in. Now, I have seen a lot of strange stuff, but that is up there. And you know exactly what I'm referring to.
Well, I had an uncle that I was told was born with a veil on his face. And I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I've heard that it means something. That would be...
I would not be surprised if you had said born with a tail. Veil? Maybe you got that messed up.
Too. There's a show, I think on Netflix, called The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. I'm probably kin to those if anybody's ever seen that show. But I'll tell you why I think that is. When I walk into a room like that and I tend to negate activity. And it started with these two entities. Like I said, one of them is a negative. And I've bled twice because of this thing. Once when I was young, still crawling into bed with my parents. My mom woke up in the middle of the night one night, and she saw me. I was laying on my stomach, and she described it as it looked like somebody had me by the hair of the head and lifted up. My arms were at my sides, and from waist up, I wasn't touching the bed. And when she looked at me, my head hit the footboard. And she kind of passed out and woke back up with me screaming and crying, my head pouring blood. And, she told me that story. Obviously, I didn't remember it. I was too young. So I kind of just cataloged it until 7th grade. Completely different state, completely different house.
It was still there?
I woke up in the middle of the night. From the waist up, not touching anything. I don't bend that way, dude. Arms at the side of my head, side of my body, not touching anything, off the bed, looking at my bedside table. When I realized what I was looking at, I felt a push on the back of my head, and I hit that bedside table hard enough to where it nearly knocked me out.
What do you think it was?
I have no idea.
Do you think that could have been one of your little astral projections?
No.
That's something different?
No, this was something there. And I think because of that ability to project, I think that I attracted things. And I also think that
I agree with that.
the positive that was with me, I think could have been my brother that I never got to meet. He died before he could ever be born. But when I started projecting at around 5, 6 years old, I would always see a little boy sitting beside me. And then I would come back into my body. And I kind of believe now that might be my brother that was never born. So the negative and positive, and as I got older, and of course then I had to deal with the old hag for so many years.
We've all had to deal with an old hag.
I'm not talking about my ex-wife.
I know.
This is the sleep paralysis, what everybody calls a sleep paralysis demon. She's a succubus. Again, not my ex-wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a whole different kind of succubus. But I've had to deal with her probably up until my mid-20s, I would say. And I had begun to learn about spiritual protection. And I think that's when I really started to come into my own power. And she came into the bedroom one night. And when I saw her come into the room, I threw my hand up. I said, no. And I meant it fervently. I meant it with everything I could mean it with. And as soon as I did that, she flew back out the door, backwards. I mean, like I had hit her. And I've not had sleep paralysis since.
Well, I'm a firm believer that we have control over this realm.
Yeah,
and
this is our domain.
This is our domain, and if something's aggravating you or something's harassing you, you can just tell it to leave you alone, and it pretty much has to. Yeah. Now, it doesn't work with everything, but for the most part, it should.
That's where you should start.
Yeah, that's where you should start, and then if things escalate, then you'll have to escalate too. But I'm a firm believer in that, and I think that's actually a pretty cool story. I've never heard you tell me that one. That's pretty interesting. Tiny, I do have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
And this is a question we used to ask a lot. Why do you think that the paranormal attracts the paranormal? In other words, let's just take most paranormal sightings. After we've done with the investigation, we're sitting there talking to the people, and let's just say we're sitting on someone's front porch talking to them, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, by the way, seen Bigfoot over there," or "By the way, we saw like a skinwalker."
It's
or Dogman.
because it goes back to what we're taught. All right, we're taught at an early age, children and their uh, imaginary friends, or that children are open.
Mm-hmm.
They're wide open, right? They don't have any disbeliefs. Things are just what they are. Okay, and we're taught out of that. And we're taught to be closed-minded. When you have a paranormal experience, it starts to open you back up. It starts to open that free belief back up. And in doing that, it releases a little bit more of your inherent abilities. We all have inherent abilities. We all, like I said, we're more powerful than we allow ourselves to be. And when you see something like that changes your perception, you're a little bit more open. All right. So, okay, good example. Have you ever been looking for a certain type of car that you wanted to buy, and you finally find it? You're like, cool, it's original, it's different. I'm a little different. You're driving down the road and you see that car every freaking where.
Yes, I believe I have been there.
Yes. Perfect example. It's the same with the paranormal. You're open to it. You see it. And the more you see it and the more you accept it, the more you experience. Because you're not closed off. That's our problem as a race, as a culture. We're closed off.
Well, and you're right, because they teach you from day one. If a kid has some abilities or they're seeing things, you're not seeing that.
Exactly.
You're not. No, that's
not real.
That's not real. There's no such thing as ghosts. That's always my favorite. There's no such thing as monsters.
Exactly.
Well, I beg to differ, but who am I? Again, you and I think outside the box.
The definition of monster could be different.
It's true, and everyone's got to. Again, that's why we don't judge. If someone doesn't believe in something, they don't have to. We're not going to make them do it. We just have certain evidences that have made us believe that there's a possibility that there's the supernatural and the paranormal and the cryptid world all coincide, and they all exist with our world, and everything works together. I've always said this: you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And it's like good and evil. You have to have one to have the other. If you have the normal, everyday world that you and I live in every day, then why wouldn't there be a paranormal, supernatural world? And why is it that people say cryptids can't exist? All right, I'm still willing to bet there's a whole lot of people somewhere in some little building that says government on it that are probably laughing at people that say, oh, there's no such thing as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Dogman, things like they can't exist. All right, so there's that whole vast realm, and I just think everything works together in synchronicity. And that's just my opinion. Again, it's just my opinion. But why shouldn't it be, like that? What's to say it can't be like that,
Yeah. Well, and where I grew up, I kind of had my own little, oh my God, I just read the book.
We have had a senior moment.
Yes. Definite brain fart.
Which one, Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes, yes, exactly. I kind of had my own little Skinwalker Ranch because I experienced so many paranormal activities there. I mean, even my parents and my dad, I've said it before, is a very practical man. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he didn't believe. It just, if it didn't affect him directly, if he couldn't see it, taste it, touch it, make money on it, survive with it, it didn't matter. But even he saw things. I mean, we had a UFO come over tree line level that blocked out the sky. We couldn't see anything around this thing. Dead silent. Lights everywhere. It's like it was amazing. We all three saw it. My mom experienced time loss. I saw the triangle UFOs, which I think now have come out that it was probably a stealth bomber. But, I saw things. And we weren't that far from a military base.
The funny thing that surprised me is a lot of people saying, oh, he was it's always someone in a trailer or someone in a trailer park. That always kind of ticks me off. Because you're talking about just judging someone for what they live in. That doesn't mean their eyes don't work or they can't hear things or they don't know what's going on around them. I want someone, the problem with witnesses is, they always, some hillbilly saw something in the woods. He must be drunk. All right. There's all these stereotypes. I don't want to talk to someone that's too articulate. I want someone that can't explain what they saw because that gives me a better idea of what really happened. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I would rather talk to someone that lives in a trailer and had an experience like that.
But also why people like that had the experiences?
Because they're open to it.
2 reasons. They're open to it, and their eyes are open.
Well, I'm a firm believer, even to this day. I still think people who live on the fringe of society, like, they're not in the urban realm. They're out there. They're on the farms, or they're out there living in, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just out. They're not in the big cities. Does that make sense? They're just people. They have more common sense when it comes to certain things. And I'm not blanketing everyone. I'm not saying that people in cities don't have common sense.
Well,
I'm just saying if someone's raised in a farm, like if someone's raised a farmer, they know what to expect to see on their farm. And when something's different, they know what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people live in the city, they just get... They don't pay attention. You ever see anyone walk in the city and there's a crash or something like that? They just keep watching. They don't.
Well, it's just the difference in your perception, because somebody lives in the city, they're not looking at the stars because they can't see the stars. Somebody in the country that's not around all the city lights, they look up.
Yeah. They probably appreciate more what they have, because they've got the small.
So it's a perception is all it is, and it's where your eyes are open. And that's I grew up. I was a stargazer, and I was always looking up. I love the moon. I love the stars. I love the night, and that's probably part of why I'm a little bit more open to things. Is I don't mind the shadows.
Well, you were talking about like how your mom lost time, and I'll tell you something. The weirdest thing that ever happened to me, like weird. I was driving from, it wasn't New England. I was coming back from Virginia. I was actually driving from Virginia to New Orleans, and I remember seeing like a real bright light in the sky. But I was driving like I was the only one like on the road. It was one of those things like 2 a.m, nothing going on.
Typical.
I had the air on, the windows down, keep it cold so I'd stay awake, that kind of thing. The music just blaring.
Yeah.
And I remember I had an Iron Maiden CD. I was listening to Best of the Beast. And I remember hearing the beginning of Fear of the
Devil's
Dark.
music.
Yeah, so I was listening to the Devil's music. I remember hearing the beginning of Fear of the Dark. And the next thing I remember is like, I had the old 6-disc changer in my old car.
Yeah.
And I was like, the next thing I remember, I was like listening to, it's like Genesis or Phil Collins' greatest hits. And I remember thinking, that's like the last CD. How did that happen? Where's it? Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure I lost time there, and I'm not sure what happened. But I can tell you this, it's still a big mystery in my life.
Right.
Because I didn't find any scars, and I don't have any like implants or anything like that. It's just, that's the one time in my life where I don't know what happened. It was just like boom. Because not only that, I was like, 160, 200 miles further down the road than I thought I was.
Right.
And the only reason why I even looked at that is because my gas gauge was like, on that quarter tank. And I don't like, when I travel a lot, I don't like having anything lower than a quarter of a tank because you never know what's going to happen. So I had to go find a gas station. So, I mean, and the only reason why I say that to say this is because, things like that happen. You never know what happened. I mean, I could have been grabbed. My mind could have been wiped. It wouldn't be hard. I'm not that bright. It could have been, or they could have grabbed me and go, oh, no.
Yeah.
No, we don't need this one. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Just wipe out everything. We don't want him to have any recollection of anything.
Yeah. Well, and I've even experienced doppelgangers. Or, well, I guess more accurately, my ex-wife and my dad experienced doppelgangers. You want to hear that story?
Of course.
So, this is a story before I was, we'll say, professional. We'll
use that word very loosely.
Yeah. I was snooping,
There you go. That's about right.
and
As we all do.
yeah, and there's a place here in Asheville that was reputedly very haunted
I know what you're talking about.
and incredibly creepy, and
Still is.
it's actually what I call the old VA hospital, which
Yeah, don't say anything to incriminate yourself, pal.
it's statute of limitations up.
You sure?
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
good.
Okay.
And this story, I didn't do anything but walk around anyway. So the place was incredibly populated, and some of the weirdest things that happened there. I was up there a bunch of times, and I'd take random pictures. Back then, all I had was little disposable cameras.
Had to wait for the battery to charge the
Yeah,
flash.
yeah. And we'd go up there, we'd take pictures, we'd walk around, creep ourselves out. And the very first time that we went up there, it was with Mike's wife and her brother. Now her brother back then was 17. All right, big old boy, big as I am now. He's like 7 something now. Yeah, he's huge. And we were going in, but there was 2 buildings. We were going in between the buildings, and we were walking in line. I was in back somehow. I don't know why I wasn't in front, but I was in back. He was in the middle, and Mike's wife was up front. And we were just walking up between the buildings, and directly something moved over here to the right hand side. Scared the tar out of Mike's brother-in-law. He turned around and started beating me and screaming. He was just doing this number on my stomach. All I could do was laugh at him. And he passed me, going back the other way. Well, we turned around, we went and got him. He said, something moved. I said, it's probably just a rabbit, whatever. Got him calmed down. So we kept going. And like I say, we're in between. And these 2 buildings, one on the right side was in worse disrepair than the other. So I call it the old hospital.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, I've been there myself.
And so as we walk between, I look to the left on the other building, and I see this odd shadow kind of on the porch. And it looked like somebody in a cape and cowl.
It was Batman.
Yeah, I'm Batman.
It's one of the hospital patients.
Yeah.
He got out.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the shadow, and I just had this odd feeling about it. All right, and I'll say this 100,000 times: the best tool an investigator has is their gut.
Oh, I agree with that. 100%.
Listen to your gut when you're investigating. So I start looking at this thing, and I notice it's looking back. And like I say, it looks like somebody it kind of looks like that thing right there behind you, Christian.
The newbie phantom?
Yep. And except it wasn't as tall. But it looked like, a robe.
For those of you who don't know what the newbie phantom is, picture, what was the movie Scream?
Yeah.
The costume from the movie Scream is based on the newbie phantom. And that was a picture taken in 1963 by a guy named Reverend Kenneth F. Lord. And that was in Yorkshire, England. And it had that elongated face and it was really tall. That's what Tiny's talking about.
Yeah. Except, the newbie phantom was, 8 feet tall or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
This thing was, normal height, but it looked like somebody in a robe with a hood on. And as we walked by, I watched it turn its head and watch us. And I'm looking at my group, wondering if they see it. Apparently they didn't see it. So I didn't
probably
say anything.
safe.
And I watch it, and we go around the building. And we get in the front yard, and that thing's in the front yard. They don't see it. I'm the only one that sees it. And I don't say anything because I don't want to chase them again.
Well, other than that, they might hit you.
Yeah.
They might hit you again.
And So all it did was watch us. So we dubbed it the Watcher. And so that's all that happened that night. But every time that I went up there, one of the weirdest things that happened was there was dogs. All right? Nothing unusual in Asheville. But these dogs didn't act like dogs. They would just sit and stare at you. They wouldn't bark, wouldn't growl, wouldn't approach, wouldn't run. They just stare at you and watch you. There's a variety of them, right? And dead center of the building, there's, I can't remember how many windows, but it was an even number of windows. Dead center in the attic, about half the times we would go up there, it looked like a Lhasa Apso or something, like a little long-haired dog sitting in the window looking at you. All right, now, we went in the building a time or two, and one of the first things I did was go up there and look at that window. There's no window sill. Nothing for a dog to sit on to look out that window. But I saw that dog about half the times that was up there. So, I say all that to say this. We convinced my dad to go with us one time. All right. And he would get out of the truck. So, him and my ex-wife sat in the truck, kind of between the buildings on one section. And I won't say too much because I don't want to give any ideas. But they were sitting there. And then my brother-in-law, we got out, and instead of going in between like we normally do, we cut down and went up front. We went around to the far side of the building and stopped dead in our tracks. There's a wolf standing there.
A wolf or like
wolf.
a real wolf?
A wolf. Absolutely beautiful animal. Stood probably waist high to me. Just sitting there, looking at it. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. He just stared at us. And we stared at him. And I'm thinking, okay, what now?
I know what I'd be thinking.
And, well, you run. That's
I know.
bad idea.
It's on for you. I'm going to walk I'm going to moonwalk back to the truck.
So I looked at Mike's brother-in-law and I said, back away, nice and slow, real easy. And he took off.
As usual.
And I looked at the wolf like, oh, shit. And this wolf looked at him, watched him run away, and then looked back at me like, what are you going to do? And I said, good boy. And backed up real slow. And we hit the main road, come all the way back around. I mean, it took us a minute to get back to the truck because we took the long way back. When we got back to the truck, both my ex-wife and my dad were like this, just sitting there shaking, wide-eyed. They said, where have you all been? And we started to tell them, and my dad, who I never saw afraid of anything. All right. He goes, I don't know what's going on. He said, there's here in the bushes. The bushes have been rattling. He said, I don't know what y'all did when you come around that building, but you wasn't acting right. We got to go. What did I just say? Did you catch that? You're looking at me like you caught it.
Yeah, you weren't. You came from the other side.
Exactly.
So he saw something he thought was you.
Exactly. So we get away. We get calmed down. I said, what were you talking about? He said, when y'all come around that building, you looked at us funny. I said, what do you mean? He said, you were like in sync. He said, you walked around the building and you both moved at the exact same time, the exact same movements, and it was weird. Y'all looked at us weird and then walked back. He said, why did you leave? Why didn't you just come on around? We never made it around there.
There's something paranormal there.
So, and this is my dad,
Yeah.
who, he wasn't a big believer. He wasn't really a skeptic, but he wasn't a big believer. And my ex-wife saw it. So, I don't know. You tell me, skinwalker, doppelgangers.
You know what? It definitely goes beyond fringe.
Yes, it does.
It could be anything. That is about all the time we're going to have for this podcast, my friends. Thank you so much for listening. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to our podcast, we would appreciate it. We're on YouTube. You can get Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society channel. And all our podcasts are listed there. And again, anyone that wants to get in touch with us, you can get us at beyondfringe001@gmail.com. Or you can feel free to call us at 828-782-3766. We have a couple of different phone numbers, so anytime you want to call us, it's 24 hours a day. We'll pick up, or if you leave a message, we'll get back with you. Tiny, great stories. I know you got plenty more. We'll have to delve into more at another time. I'm the Cryptid Guy, and with me, as always, is Daniel Hurst, aka Tiny. Keep believing, my friends. Thank you for listening. Be good to each other.